And it's an audio assault, and it's an endurance test, and it's liable to bring on trauma and depression if you're a certain type of person, and I'm one of those certain types of people. We actually played this in the run-up to Christmas, and I was really stressed for Christmas, but I wanted to get it out of the way so that we could enter the new year without this hanging over us, but also because we never stopped working. And if it wasn't this, it would have been something else.
But this is why don't binge play this, because if you tried to keep this up for too long, it would hurt.
And it's fascinatingly deft use of it, and they've been very careful with it, so it never feels overdone. It doesn't feel repetitive. Like they keep it going. But ultimately, the reason that this game drove me away, and it drove me to only a certain distance. Had I not had Sharon there to help me, I may have been driven further, but it drove me to a certain distance, not because I was lacking in empathy, but because I have too much. I felt too sorrowful for Senua. I felt not a need to save her or change her. It was deeply frustrating not being able to do anything other than push her forwards into combat. The mechanics of the game worked against my sensibilities. And not so much that was a problem for me. I'm really glad that this game exists, and I want to see other games do it and do it even better. But because of the journey, it was a journey I had to take in the back seat rather than the front eventually.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Because as an experience, specifically the repetition, it's not that I hear the voices, but the sense of butting my head against an unwinnable situation and expecting things to change makes me want to change things around. And if I am unable to change things around, that makes me deeply uncomfortable. So that was my ultimate experience of the game. It was a triumph to watch play out. Had it been a film, without the sense of repetition being on my hands, I think I would have engaged with it even more.
I have one other thing to add to the soundscape, specifically the voices element, and this I think was pretty subtle to the point where I was wondering whether it was intentional. So I don't know whether anybody else picked up on this as well, but there are a few moments where the voices die out, and
it gets brighter as well.
It gets a little bit brighter if you stand in certain locations, and there were times that it felt lonely.
It was not have the voices.
When the voices
felt lonely.
had gone, it felt lonely.
Yeah.
There were other more positive points, one or two where the voices went away. There was a moment where I found a spot to stand on a riverbank or a stream bank, and it was very loud. The water rushing was very loud, and it drowned them out. And that was the point where the sun came out very briefly, and that really got me, because that's how I deal sometimes. And I wasn't sure why, but the sound of water really, really calms me when things get too much sometimes. And to know that somebody else felt that too, enough to put it in a game as a moment of relief from something that was incredibly relentless. It was tiny, but it meant so much.